So in this session, we're really going to be looking at how innovation and innovative practices can drive investment as well. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by the Vice Minister here. Your Excellency, pop that microphone nice and close to you. Fantastic. Because just to give you a proper full introduction, you are the Vice Minister of Housing and Municipalities.
Correct.
You're also the Chairman of the Board of the National Housing Company. And really, you work across housing and that municipal sector. Your focus is very much on scalability, raising the quality of the built environment, and looking at things like standards within that public realm, investable land pipelines. I mean, there is so much under your belt and to your portfolio, which is really interesting. So we're going to be talking about how we can create delivery confidence, long-term confidence for investors within the real estate market and those communities that the real estate market serves. So we get a few moments to have a really interesting chat about all of those things, and it is such an honor to welcome you here to stage.
Thank you very much. The honor is mine.
So when you look back over the last few years, because you've been enrolled for about 6 years, I think, haven't you? What's the shift that you are proudest of that's really shaped the investment picture?
I think
Nice and close.
mostly what we have done over the last 6 years is move execution from heroics or individual achievement to an institutional setup. So it's no longer by who you know. It's really there is a certainty in delivery, and that's how we build scale. So really it's about institutionalizing the process from A to Z. That would drive investors to invest in the housing projects and, of course, in municipalities as well.
When you say institutionalizing, what does that really mean in kind of practice in terms of the changes that have been brought about?
Well, it's meaning that the process is very clear. You know what you're getting into. Risk is defined early on, so there is no kind of vagueness about what you're getting yourself into. And once you go through cycles of that, and there is always predictability, there's always a clarity in the mandate, then you see intent transfer into capital. And this is what we've seen over the last few years.
Amazing. So clarity in the mandate, does that have to go across teams? Is that something that you've really tried to put in place as part of your leadership?
Absolutely. And the results have been incredible. I mean, if you look just at NHC over the last 3 years, in terms of compounded growth, revenues grew by over 80% per year. When you look at availability of housing units, that growth even exceeded revenues by 86% year on year. And we doubled the number of kind of suburbs that are out in the market. And we have clarity now what we're doing until 2030 and beyond. So land is available. There is no ambiguity about availability of land. The process is clear. So it's just a machine that's been running. And that machine creates the clarity and the predictability that's really key to investments in the housing sector.
Okay, so this idea of predictability, because this is looking at kind of how we can attract investment. What has to be in place for predictability to be trusted?
I think that I think has been achieved by the results that I've just shared with you.
Yeah.
You have to go through cycles of delivery, and kind of the private sector's role is not to fill in a gap, but part of the process. They are an integral part of the process, and us as a regulator has to step back and just let them perform. And the private sector is exceptional to come up with solutions and kind of advance the housing market. So so predictability for us means really having clarity of regulations, clarity of risk, and clarity of what's coming next. We don't want kind of the housing market to be opportunistic. No, it's institutionalized. There is kind of we know what the demand is going to be for the next 16 years, and we have plans in place to deliver on that demand. Very similar to infrastructure provisioning. You don't build infrastructure for today. You're building infrastructure for years to come.
Yeah, I think we've talked quite a lot on this stage over the last couple of years about taking that long-term view. And it's interesting that you talk about mapping demand for the next 16 years.
Yes, of course. And it's an assumption because you have to take into kind of population growth. But we are ready for different scenarios. So, like I said, up to 2030, lands have been allocated for housing, and plans are in place to deliver. The machine is running, so it's just it's really literally a machine in housing right now.
Amazing, and we have to make sure that machine runs smoothly, don't we? Because a machine can only work if all the component parts are in good working order.
100%, 100%.
Another word you use alongside predictability is the idea of scalability. So what has to really change to make scalability real, especially when it comes to the housing market?
Well, what has to change is already changing. So what we've done over the last few years is really make sure that the National Housing Company, for example, is a massive developer. It develops only 20% of its project. The rest is dependent on developers. And the developers see that there is a clear mandate, there's clarity, and they're starting to, we issue RFPs for a couple of years to come, not just for today. So what scalability does is the main aspect of scalability is make sure that there's affordability. Once you scale up and you have kind of foresight on what's going to happen, you can have affordability in housing. And this is really key. I mean, the whole idea of housing and municipality joining forces a few years back is really about affordability and urban development. And this is really the focus of both kind of entities within the ministry on that is how do we kind of manage the cities going forward. So if we talk about the outskirts suburbs that we have now in the housing company, in the national and NSC, they've run their course. This is clear, probably very minimal are going to be built on the outskirts. Now what we're thinking about is how do we attract citizens and residents and foreigners back into city centers. These already exist.
Yes.
The infrastructure is provisioned for.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do? And you have to really do something, and that will be transitioning into municipality. And the team, what we've did over the last 4 years, 5 years, is really create kind of urban interventions, build up green space, public areas, and that we have been very successful in. I mean, just the municipality alone, we've built around 20 million square meters of public spaces over the last 3 years.
Well, tell me about this, because I think this links into Project Joy, doesn't it?
100%.
Which is, because you talk about how do we attract people back into the city centres? How do we maybe prevent that continual urban sprawl, but really use what we've got? So Project Joy, what's it all about? Tell us about it.
Well, Project Joy is really about kind of what do you do to a build-up environment to make it attractive to the existing residents and to attract more people into it. And what we've done there is we focused on basically using technology and AI to see where can we place kind of green space to have the most accessibility to citizens. Once we started the project, accessibility rates were about 55%.
Okay.
Within 10 minutes of a public space. Now, I'm proud to say we're over 72% in 3 years. This measure, by the way, moves in fractions. It doesn't move in percentage points like this.
Sure.
But this is technology and kind of focus on doing that thing really enabled the ministry to really make a huge dent in that KPI, for instance.
And it sounds like it was quite an innovative, forward-thinking project. Did you have to, was it hard to convince people? Was it hard to get it over the start line?
It was hard to convince them of the ambition, but not of the value of the project.
Okay.
And that was really the difference. And of course, we have an amazing minister who really led the initiative from A to Z.
Absolutely.
We're just supporting his vision, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I think it's a really interesting point about vision and how that you kind of use the value proposition to get people on board with a vision. Because we're talking about sort of innovations and forward-thinking attitudes, which then create investor opportunity and confidence. So is that something that you've really been aware of?
Of course. I mean, if you look, we'll go back to Project Joy. Why did Project Joy make sense? Because there is economic value to Project Joy. It's not just an aesthetic project. No, it's once you do an intervention and you build a park, we found through benchmarks and actual results that real estate tends to value increases by an average of about 20%. So it's not a small change. And that really forces people or encourages people to kind of invest in the area, kind of reshape their buildings, interventions in this way, and really focus on the aesthetics of the area, and that attracts people. We know that people stay in areas that are vibrant, that are high quality and that has walkability.
Yeah. So these municipal areas are really seeing a big growth in revenue, in opportunity, in bankability, in investability.
100%. I mean, if you look at what we've done, we have a platform called For Us. For Us is A to Z platform that once you apply, once we offer a land, and the land is offered based on demand.
Yeah.
So let's say in City X, there's a need more rooms, more hospitality rooms. So we would anchor our assets towards that, or hospitals, or whatever the demand is.
So you're bringing in data, are you, into this platform that's then informing the decisions you make?
And the results have been astronomical. I mean, when we started, there was about 40 opportunities on the platform, generating about 800 million riyals of revenues. Today, there's over 40,000 opportunities on that platform.
Sorry, 40 to now 40,000?
That's scalability. And that generates about 12 billion of kind of sustained revenues for the municipal sector.
Amazing.
And drives growth across the city. It's really kind of the benefit is across everything. So as you invest in your city by investing in municipal lands, the quality of the services in the city increase and the value of the city increases.
Was there anything that surprised you about the data that came into that platform that then informed these decisions? Was there anything that maybe was unexpected?
The only thing that was unexpected was the attractiveness of municipal lands and how when you make the process transparent, clean, and very little kind of individual decisions. It's really all, it's all a platform, right? There is no human interaction. From the time you bid until you sign the RFP, it's all done electronically. And this has helped us a lot. And it goes back to kind of predictability, measuring your risk, and really investing in municipal lands.
So let's talk a little bit about quality and standards, because I know that that's also a very important part of this mix for you to create investor confidence and opportunity. How are you ensuring that that quality and those standards are adhered to?
Well, once I talk about scalability, it's never on behalf of the quality. Quality becomes the differentiator once you increase scalability. So we're very focused on really making these suburbs in the housing company and in the municipalities that is livable. Walkability is high. They're almost like utopic. I mean, in one of the projects we have, Khuzam, there's a 4 million square meter artery of green space that cuts through the residence. And now green space and the public space represents over 35% of any suburbs we do. So this is a huge focus for us. And really this is, I mean, one of the reasons why municipalities and housing mixed. We don't want the scale to kind of come at the expense of quality and quality of living. And quality of living is not a nice to have. It's really a value that we carry, and it has both a personal value and an economic value to investing in quality of life.
Well, let's stay on that point for a moment, this idea of quality of life as a value driver in projects. And you've spoken about Project Joy, you've spoken about some of the other things you're putting in place. You've mentioned both walkability and livability. Are there some other things really driving development decisions, investment decisions that are based on how to achieve that quality of life for a resident?
Absolutely. I mean, this is key. I mean, if you look at like we talked about scale and demand, you have to have a product that is attractive to buyers.
Yeah.
You cannot build something that like just buildings and expect people to live in. So the main differentiator for us is really moving to kind of how do we make these suburbs affordable, but provide 5-star quality of life to the residents. And this, I think, I actually know we have achieved with flying colors. Especially if you see the progression of NSC, you'll see how the first projects were and now the projects now. I haven't yet took a visitor to one of our projects and haven't bought on the spot.
Amazing.
And this is from my kids all the way to ministers that come and visit the projects. So this shows that we have a product that is offered to different segments of the country, and that is attractive to all of these segments.
And have you noticed a really direct correlation between the increase in the quality of life component and the value of that development or that project?
Yes. Value in terms of demand.
Yes.
Not value in terms. We try to still maintain
because of affordability.
Yeah. So how do we balance these two? And we manage to do it through investments, through kind of having the private sector more involved, and making these quality of life assets more of economic drivers as well, not just a static asset in the suburb or in the city.
So you mentioned the private sector there, and obviously these partnerships between the private and the public sectors are so critically important. How are you really thinking about developing better, more effective partnerships with the private sector to enable a project to feel safe and investable at scale?
I think, look, I've come from the private sector, so I know what
you straddle both sides, which is
so
very helpful.
I know what is required, and I think for me, when I would invest in any projects, back in my old days, it used to be about really, do I know what risk am I getting into? Is this business continuous? It's because I have to invest not just in the first project, in many projects to come in the future, and if there's returns that are acceptable to me. And we try to make sure that there's all these elements in every project that we bid. And the private sector now is not really kind of an adversary. It's really a true partnership that we have. I mean, if you look at the NSC, the municipalities, we have a lot of repetitive businesses. Everybody comes back because there is clarity of process, and there is no ambiguity, and things might change halfway. Yeah. It's very clear how we do things.
Is that also to do with sort of clarity of regulation, so everyone knows exactly where they stand? Is that somewhere that or an area where you can support the private sector have confidence?
100%. I mean, it's change of law is not something that the private sector can kind of quantify the risk for. So we try to do as much as we can to make sure that the regulations are steady and changing. But of course, sometimes things happen. Market forces us to step in when it's required and at very critical moments. It's not something that the government wants to do, but it has to do once there is a requirement for it. Yeah. Such as the white land levy and the rental freeze that has taken place over the last few months. I think in terms of the white land levy, it's a shame that people hoard lands in city centers and to force people to go outside for affordability. Now, with the white land levy, it's not really about generating fines for the municipal sector or housing sector. It's really more about driving development in the cities and really bringing people back into city centers, because that's where our heritage is. And these areas, by the way, are so well designed.
Yes.
They're beautiful areas that have accessibility. You don't have to drive an hour to get to work. It's a 15-minute drive. So it's something that we really focus on. And this will be really, you'll see more and more of that, not just in terms of the white land levy, but also the focus of the housing and municipality and how to really find ways to attract citizens back and residents back to city centers.
So let's talk for a moment about how easy or hard it is to balance short-term priorities and objectives with an outlook which is more long-term and sustainable when it comes to growth. Is that a tension that you feel you're constantly battling, or is it quite simple how you manage those short and long-term priorities?
Well, in a government setting, everything has to be long-term. But we need to kind of serve the citizen today. So yes, it's a hard balance, but a friend of mine once told me, you can't look too far that you won't see what's in front of you, and you can't look too near that you won't see what's ahead of you. So it's a balance that we have to do, and there is market forces that really encourages us to do certain things for the short term. Project Joy, by the way, it's a short-term project.
Sure.
That is part of a much longer vision. And so is all the different housing projects that you see. They're anchored in kind of delivering for the long term, but with an eye on what can we do now to really kind of speed the wheel of execution.
Because I suppose people often need to see things tangibly, practically, in order to believe those proof points that you spoke to right at the beginning. It's all well and good to have this long-term vision and, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, but if people don't see it kind of in reality on the ground, it's very difficult to then take a step towards investment and confidence.
I mean, a lot of people, the vision was a document in 2017. But now if you drive through Riyadh, it's an actual living being that you see. You see the Sports Boulevard, you see Gdiyah being opened, you see all of our NSC projects. So seeing is believing, and now I think there is belief. And this is what's really the next stage for us to really drive investment, is really moving from this is an opportunity to more this is a long-term, standing, clear business that we believe in.
Yeah, and the idea of legacy comes into that, which is so important.
100%.
We also have a couple of really, well, lots of big important events on the horizon, but specifically with Expo 2030, with the FIFA World Cup coming in 2034. These big events, I imagine, have a huge impact on the way you need to plan for real estate demand, because real estate underpins everything. It underpins sport, it underpins people coming, it underpins tourism, it underpins hospitality. So how are you using those events, those landmark events, to really plan for and deliver on that demand?
Well, the nice thing about the Expo and the World Cup in 2030 and 2034 respectively is it's not a surprise. They really fit into the overall Vision 2030. Yeah. So what it made us do is just speed up some of the timelines, but it's still part of the longer vision. There is nothing new that we're doing because of this, but we're just doing it a bit quicker than we normally would have done. And that's great. I mean, this is really the idea. We've learned from lessons from previous big events that happened that could have had an impact. But no, the Expo and the World Cup really fit perfectly into our plans. And if you see if you look at the submission file, there's really just some new stadiums that are being built as part of this. But it forces us, as a municipal sector, we're now quickly making the kind of the mobility to these stadiums. Maybe districts that were supposed to come later down the road are coming ahead of schedule, but it really was always part of the plan.
Amazing.
So it actually works to my benefit because I do things quicker.
Which is fantastic. Is there anything else that you would suggest would be helpful to drive that pace, to drive that ability to implement the vision? Is there anything you'd ask from the people in the room, perhaps in the private sector, around the role they can play, the part they can play in enabling this vision to come to life?
I think, like I said, it's very clear that the vision is visible now. Yeah. And I think there is buy-in. And the main thing is, this is not a short-term play. It's a predictable play. We know what's going to happen up to 2030, and very soon you'll see 2040 vision, which is anchors around continuing 2030 with a few additional themes that really will drive industry, will drive the focus on artificial intelligence and AI. And so things, when you have a clear vision and you have a kind of clear mandates and a clear kind of targets for that vision, then predicting the future becomes easy. So really, I keep saying, predictability creates intent, and intent brings capital. Yeah. And this is really the key to what we're trying to do here.
Because we've spoken ahead of this session, and there's something that you would really like people to almost shift in terms of their mindset about the way we see real estate as an industry, as an ecosystem. Can you just share a little bit of your thoughts with the audience? Because I think it's a fascinating kind of reframe.
I'm sorry, I didn't...
So the way you see real estate as being very much part of a much bigger infrastructural part of building a country. It's not just small projects, small individual projects. You have a big vision for how you'd like people to see the whole real estate industry.
Of course. I mean, real estate in Saudi Arabia is really part of our DNA. Yeah. I mean, that's how wealth was kind of trickled from oil wealth was through real estate. And a lot of the landowners and now switched into developers. And they see real estate as an asset that really can, before they used to say real estate doesn't eat or drink. But that's not really the intent of real estate. Real estate now has to bring you benefit and has to be kind of a profitable asset class that really can be measured against equities market, real estate, just like in developed nations.
Absolutely.
So there's indices, it becomes more of a commodity than it is kind of an opportunistic play. And I think this is what all the new regulations that have been is trying to achieve. It's really how do we kind of sustain the growth of real estate, make sure it's an asset class that delivers kind of reasonable returns, but sustainable returns for the long term.
I think that's wonderful, and the idea of us now needing to nurture that industry as well. Like you say, it maybe does eat and drink more than we realize, perhaps. So just in closing, perhaps you could share with us your thoughts on maybe a change or a shift that's coming up this year in 2026, or something that might enable us to better increase investor confidence. What do you want us to focus on? What do you want us to really think about? What do you want us to be promoting to the marketplace? What's that one thing that you would love everyone to take away from this conversation?
I think, look, the Saudi Arabia, I mean, you as a visitor, you see, I mean, it's...
I feel like I'm at home here.
Yeah. You see the vibe. So we want to move away from excitement to predictability. And predictability really what this is all about.
Yeah.
I mean, excitement fades, but continuity, predictability, knowing what you're getting yourself into is very sustainable. And this is what investing in Saudi Arabia is not about today. It's really about the future. It's about believing in the vision and believing that this vast population is going to deliver on all the vision objectives. And there's no doubt that we will.
I find that very exciting, very inspiring. It's wonderful to hear about your journey over the last few years throughout your roles. And thank you so much for sharing your perspectives with us today. Your Excellency, it's an absolute delight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I have a massive round of applause, please, Your Excellency?